Tonight, Central Region reacts to President Akufo-Addo's apology for claiming he never promised to build them a harbor.
Issues are not something that you can just break and then come back and apologize. We are not jokes.
Yeah, I know that he will fulfill his promise, as he stated it.
But there's more controversy as the president insists the harbor promise needs a rethink.
Let me just confess it. I made a mistake. Even with the mistake, I think still we have to rethink a lot of things. But it was a mistake, and I have to apologize to the people of Cape Coast and the Central Region for that mistake.
The NDC has just finished addressing a news conference in Cape Coast on the issue. We have the latest.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. Rarely do you see a politician admit a mistake and apologize for it. Well, President Akufo-Addo did that today, admitting he was wrong in insisting just last week that he never promised to build the people of the Central Region a harbor in Cape Coast. Well, that apology has stirred further controversy with mixed reaction from residents. In the last hour, the opposition National Democratic Congress in Cape Coast has rejected the president's apology. More from the Central Region shortly. But first, here was the president last week while on a tour of the region.
The commitment was never to a harbor, it was to a landing.
Okay.
It's very, very important. And you look inside the MPP page 88 of the MPP manifesto for the 2020 election, it was clear. The harbor, we have to be very clear in our mind. We never committed ourselves. I never said I was going to build a harbor in Cape Coast. I said I was going to build a landing site.
So that was the president last week while touring the Central Region. He was on a radio station there. Well, today he's been on Peace FM here in Accra, talking to Kwame Sefakai, and admitted that was a mistake. He apologized for it.
Let me just confess it. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. In looking at the manifesto, and I tried to do that before I saw one page which talked about a landing site. I didn't go further to see. But in any event, even with the mistake, I think still rethink a lot of things. You can't have a harbor in Elmina. We have a harbor in Elmina, which is being developed right now. Obviously, Takoradi, Elmina. Then we have another one projected for Cape Coast before we go further down the road. I think some rethinking has to go on for us to be able to find what is the value for money arrangements. But it was a mistake, and I have to apologize to the people of Cape Coast and the Central Region for that mistake. But presidents are here.
After all,
they're not Superman. They make mistakes.
Well, I want to take you to the Central Region now, the Central Regional Capital, Cape Coast, where my colleague Kojo Nyako joins with reactions from the ground there. Kojo, this was big news to the people of Cape Coast, the entire Central Region just last week. What has been the reaction now to the president's apology and admission that he was wrong?
Well, so it's divided. While some are saying that, well, he is human, and so he should be pardoned for whatever mistake he did. Others also believe that, well, it is not in their plan to execute that particular project, because if it was in their plan and he was coming to Cape Coast and he knew about these two projects that they had promised the people of the Central Region, he wouldn't, in the first place, told them that there was a clarity, there was a clarification he was providing to the manifesto promises they made to the people of the Central Region. And they even go on to accuse him further that, well, ever since he came to the Central Region, he's not done anything significant for the people in the region. I have been gauging their reaction.
Issues are not something that you can just break and then come back and apologize. We're hoping that people will believe whatever you are saying. We are not jokes. We can't be taken for jokes. So if he promised something and he didn't fulfill it, but now he wants to fulfill it, we still can't trust him because some we know there is disappointment. There will be disappointment somewhere. Unless we've seen the result of his promise, we want to leave him.
But you're not even of the dada. All mine have would be I mean, America to me, MPP is strong, but I'm with there. I could find a was in Nigeria. Until so, yeah, for your wife. No promises are so easy. It is also the husband or the brain is a year chan. Mamma Dina could show fun no brain.
Yeah, I know that he will fulfill his promise. As he stated it, because it was even in their campaign message as well. Their manifesto as well. So I know he will do it.
Mixed reactions there, Kojo. In the last hour, the NDC has been addressing a news conference in Cape Coast. What's the issue?
Well, so Evans, the NDC has also waded into this matter, and they are saying that they are demanding actually that the airport be built and then the harbor, all that the president promised in their manifesto. They want the president to fulfill these things to the people of Cape Coast. They said that when they look at how the events are unfolding, they have some confidence and belief that the new Patriotic Party administration would not do anything significant for the people in the region.
Na yes man payin de as na why na orpacho o sande the ebegine gwai na kwa na ahyen ne boya ntam atadam magwafo nya yenwo dechi de anya ye kra ebenya habo medwuma abahinu kuro yim enya ye kra ebenya airport oba medwuma abahinu kuro yim na asana le twa wo 360 asana ebegine gwai ha le biomo cho or buri ha na waka ne me Bejana Catende, Imwe wa Kashiana, Ibo and Kai, the Bidama. Yes, penny a day. If we are full yana money on the whole origin. Then you be safe, not top. Baby, and I was in Bejana, Idria, and see. Naden, Bejana, or Yana na Pahana chop. Say a chop on divert your attention da. If we are fire crowd near the airport, Nigerian Habon, on a name model,
you will go and say, you go radio baby, ha. I had no bejan or catch in there. On Kada wash I am bought. And you the papa me on my pain, or some bugway. Radio no check in there, as some more kind of uncanny. The year can you not another you just die in the airport too.
Kojo.
Evans. So essentially what these two people are saying is that the president came to the central region, specifically to Cape Coast and to Eagle FM, to deny that they will build an airport for the harbor for them. And so they want him to use the same medium to get to the people of Cape Coast and explain these issues to them, apologize to them. So that was the lady. The lady is the Cape Coast South Communications Officer, Ahima. She was speaking. And then the male voice was that of Peter Simon Jechi, the constituency secretary for the Cape Coast North constituency. He essentially affirmed the position of the lady.
So in essence, they want an apology down in Cape Coast.
Exactly. And they are demanding the harbor and whatever the MPP has brought.
Okay, we'll get into that. Thank you very much, Kojo, for the reactions from the Central Region to the President's apology today that he got it wrong. I want to bring in the Abeku Adams, and he spoke last week. They were part of he was lead of the group that had campaigned for the harbour and the airport. They had gone on protest, in fact, in the lead up to the elections, and then the lead up to the NPP's launch of their manifesto. Eventually, they got it into the NPP's manifesto. Last week, he was less than pleased with the president's assertion that he never promised to build them a harbor. He joins me on the telephone line right now. Mr. Bigwad, I'm thanking for your time here on Top Story.
Thanks for having me tonight.
The president has apologized. He says he got it wrong. Apology accepted.
No, apology not accepted. Because we still don't know what he's apologizing for, whether he's apologizing for the denial on Eagle FM the other day, or he's apologizing for the promise they made in their manifesto.
No, he's clear, you know. I mean, he says he got it wrong. When he said that he never promised, he got that wrong. Like, he had just checked the first page 88, and he didn't refer to the rest. So that is what he's apologizing for.
He forgot his own promise. That's right. Okay, that's right. But the point is that he made that mistake or that error, or whatever he calls it, in Cape Coast, on the land of Cape Coast, right? And it is customary in our tradition that where you commit that error is where you go and apologize. So if he genuinely acknowledges that he faltered in that direction, he should come back to Cape Coast and make the apology to us. He can't stand in a cry and make the apology to Cape Coast.
I mean, what difference does that make?
It makes a lot of difference because it shows that kind of human-centeredness leadership. It tells you, it gives us that sense of being respected as citizens. It gives us that sense of being acknowledged as making legitimate demands or requests from the central government. It is traditionally appropriate to do so. He knows he's from the royal house, and he should know that kind of courtesy. It should be part of our national politics as a people. We cannot forgo our culture. You can't come to Cape Coast and disrespect us citizens in Cape Coast and go and stand in Accra and make another apology.
But I beg you,
in any case, it shouldn't have been on a radio station where he was being interviewed. It should have been a deliberate effort of reconnecting to Cape Coast in that honest way that, yes, I made a mistake. I'm seeking your forgiveness. Let's start talking again on this issue that you've raised. Yeah.
But the president made a point. The point about humans, that he's a human being. He makes genuine mistakes, and he has done one. He's apologized. He did it on the radio station, yes, of course. And indeed, his mistake was also on the radio station. Geographic locations notwithstanding, he simply has said, I'm sorry. You don't want to move on?
No, you're not moving on. Cape Coast is still where it is now. We still want to know what goes on with the promise. If you have apologized for denying, we still want to see what happens after the apology. Because the promise still stands solid. It is indelible in history that once upon a time, the Mr. Akufo-Addo government promised Cape Coasters harbour and airport. Come to Cape Coast, render the apology to Cape Coasters. You have a traditional leader, a man of Cape Coast. Come to us. We'll meet you there and we'll have a conversation. Let's discuss what the vision is going forward. You don't want to settle on an apology. You're not. This is not something that you are emotional about. So it's apologize. Let it slip. No, we are looking forward to moving Cape Coast forward, and that's the focus we are on now.
To the
apology should come to Cape Coast. To come to Cape Coast, so that we continue the discussion on our harbour and airport.
To the substance, though, of the promise, he spoke about that too, and he says that we have to rethink a lot of things. And he mentions that you already have a landing site that they're building, I think he says in Amina, and then he raised a question about the value for money of doing it, another one in Cape Coast. What do you make of that?
Amina and Cape Coast are two different policies or constituencies. Amina is part of the Commander Edna Iguafu-Abirim. Cape Coast is another constituency in its own right. In Takoradi, we have the Takoradi International Harbour, and we still have quite a number of fishing ports or landing sites in Cape Coast. It's not nothing to have a landing site at Amina and a harbour in Cape Coast. It doesn't follow anything. So the argument of having harbor in Takra, didn't have a ship, fishing port in Amina, first class. It doesn't sit well with us. What studies has the government conducted to really be a substance is a claim of value for money? What research has he committed?
Isn't that what he's suggesting? That now the work needs to be done to ascertain and validate the value for money of building the harbor in Cape Coast and the feasibility of it. That's his suggestion there.
Well, if that's where he wants to start from, fine. He's the government. He doesn't even need to tell us that. If he's serious about trying to establish the science of it, that it is viable, that it might be done, he should go ahead and do it. Besides, his own vice president was very, very clear in his statement that he sees the sense in getting the harbor in Cape Coast. So the vice president should be consulted. And probably he has quite some data to back his claim. Other than that, the whole issue gives us a picture of a very disorganized government in place, kind of a dysfunctional regime that does not have a vision or plan. You understand? Because if they had a plan and Cape Coasters were asking for harbor and airport, it behooves the central government to prioritize, to tell us honestly. So any form of honesty should have come before the 2020 election, not after the 2020 election. You understand? So that's where Cape Coasters are very much agreed in this whole issue. The president should come to Cape Coast for us to have a conversation on this issue.
Abeku Adams, thank you very much. And Abeku led the campaign that demanded the airport and a harbour. In fact, they had gone on a protest and insisted that it be made a central theme in the campaign. In fact, the NDC, the MPP, did include these in their manifesto, which is, of course, is subject of some great controversy following the president's comments last week. But as you noted, the president did not only stop at apologizing and admitting it was a mistake, but he raised the issue, the substantive issue about the feasibility of having a harbor in Cape Coast. Listen again. Let's interrogate it a bit more, because it goes back to an issue we had touched on here on your election headquarters with our program Manifesto Tracker about designing and formulating promises for a manifesto. This is the president again, in the context of the apology that he issued today.
I made a mistake. I made a mistake. In looking at the manifesto, and I tried to do that before I saw one page which talked about a landing site. I didn't go further to see. But in any event, even with the mistake, I think still we have to rethink a lot of things. We can't have a harbour in Elmina. We have a harbour in Elmina, which is being developed right now. Obviously, Takra near Elmina. Then we have another one projected for Cape Coast before we go further down the road. I think some rethinking has to go on for us to be able to find what is the value for money arrangements that were. But it was a mistake, and I have to apologize to the people of Cape Coast.
As a president there, I want to bring in the founding president of Imani Africa, Franklin Kudu, joins us on the telephone line. Of course, they've been partners in the Manifesto Tracker series. Joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Kudu, I'm grateful that you joined us again here on Top Story. So the promise was made. I recall very well on Manifesto Tracker with your team analyzing it, and one of the conclusion then was that this was one of those things that are going to be very difficult to implement together with the airport. 10 months on, the president now says some rethinking needs to be done. Yes, I've apologized. Yes, I made a mistake, he says. However, we still need to rethink this. We need to check if it's value for money. He's raising the feasibility question that we all did prior to the elections. What's your reaction to this?
Well, first of all, we need to thank the president for acknowledging the mistake. But this latest confession leaves us with two conversations as well. The president has not said that he's not going to build the harbor because he said he made a mistake. The other part of the conversation is that, well, you may not actually be getting the harbor because if I had done a proper analysis, value for money analysis, it wouldn't make sense to put a harbor there. Either way, we are in limbo. In fact, not Ghana, maybe the people of Cape Coast are in limbo. Maybe that's why Abeku Adams is asking for a conversation with the president in Cape Coast to understand what he actually means. Is he saying that he's sorry and that they will not be getting the airport, or he's sorry but they will not be getting the harbor, but he's sorry but they will be getting the harbor? I think that is still in limbo. We need to understand that. But I think the substantive conversation which you wanted us to have was about the viability and profitability of these kinds of projects. And it does appear that on the face of it, the president realized that he couldn't possibly have promised a harbor, given the fact that there's a bigger harbor in Takoradi, and then obviously there's some related one at Elmina. You remember, it was the same conversation we had at the airport, that it didn't really make economic sense to be putting an airport at Cape Coast when we had one in Takoradi.
Yes, I recall that.
So I think the chickens have come home to roost. And I suspect the conversation now would be whether we need to start looking at the manifesto properly and then start saying now that, look, there are certain things we can't just not do because we were not in our element of, should I say, rationality or proper value for money mindset when we promised them. It helps a whole lot because, you see, the resources of the country are not are not infinite, and so it's important that when you are making these kinds of should I call them promises, you must also be careful that you have the wherewithal to attain them. Somehow, the conversation is similar to the one about the one district, one factory. Factory. We said that there's nothing wrong promising factory, but is every district equally productive enough to have a factory? And that it's important to do an analysis of each district before you decide that you put a factory there. There's nothing wrong going back to the table, going to drawing board and saying that, look, an agglomeration of districts are better off feeding off a particular industry in one district rather than have them spread like confetti all over the place. So I think we should thank the president that he's finally come home to realization that elections have consequences. And I think when they promise big ticket transformational projects, they must also have the wherewithal to back them. I think that's a conversation he wants us to have.
And it doesn't erase that question that we asked about the work that goes into these manifesto, crafting of the promises and the policies that they put in there. It's clear. I mean, at least opposite the president, that something may have
clear.
Real
Clear,
work.
but even more clearer is the fact that some of these promises were made because the NDC was on their tail. If you recall, when Mahama, you remember we were in the studio and we were shocked when we found out that Mahama's manifesto was quite meaty and had quite a lot of faith in them. And I think they got scared and somehow went on their spree. And so we can allow some of this case to pass. But I think I want to have it's good to have that proper conversation. Look, even before the NPP came to power, Imani and Joy, we've always had this conversation about having some sort of a body within government that vets this type of project, so that if we have people who can assess projects based on their viability and profitability, it will help a lot rather than just saying we will do this and do that and spread them all over the place. And then within the shakes of a landfill, these things tend to fall into disrepair. I don't think we want to have that conversation again. So I am particularly happy that the president has brought this conversation about value for money up.
And very finally, I mean, on his apology though, that it's pretty mixed. I mean, the NDC says he will accept it. Big Wedam says, well, and if you listen to the people on the ground too, that some who say, no, he's apologized. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let sleeping dogs lie. Where do you stand on this?
Oh, like I said before, when I started this conversation with you, is that I'm quite ambivalent. My understanding of the president is that I made a mistake. Oh no, I actually promised it. Am I going to deliver it? He's saying if he's going to do a value for money audit, he doesn't think it makes sense to put about the association about value for money and say your sorry means you actually go ahead and do it. Either way, I wouldn't like to be in his shoes. But I'm more.
Frankly, I'm grateful that you joined me. Frankly, Kujo is the president of Imani there. Well, what do you stand on this if you are in Cape Coast or in the central region? I want to hear from you